In Hawaii, the availability of water through the county municipal pipelines is limited. And if you can't get water from the county, where do you get it from? We'll talk about that coming up next. Hey, what's going on, friends? This week we're going to talk about catchment water in Hawaii because we get a lot of questions about this, but in Hawaii there are between 50 and 60,000 people who do not live on county municipal water, right? The normal water that you normally live off of, where it comes through piped to you by the county, and you get a water bill and your water turns on. So on the Big Island, specifically, there's 180,000 people, and 50 to 60,000 of them live on catchment water. So it's about a third. So there's a large amount of the population that lives on catchment water. I'm going to show you on the map here in a second where those areas are, but we get a lot of questions about this. How does catchment water work? It is just like it sounds, right? The water falls from the sky, it goes on your roof, it goes into gutters, the gutters go into a pipe that goes into a storage tank. The storage tank collects the water, and now you got to get it back into the house. And so that process consists of pumping the water into a holding tank that pressurizes it, so you have pressure in the house and the pump doesn't run continuously. And then it runs through some filters that filter it before it gets into the house. And there's a wide variety of filters that you can use, different types, UV, other more traditional type filters, and it cleans the water before it comes into the house. In most cases with the technology nowadays, you can actually drink that water. A lot of people still don't. They use it for all other household uses, but they may actually drink bottled or filtered water or have another filter system inside of the house before they actually drink it. So it's a very common thing here in Hawaii, and it's not something to be afraid of necessarily. The reality is 1/3 of the people live on it, and so it's a very normal part of life. What is a factor when it comes to real estate is the areas of the island with the most affordable real estate prices correlate to the areas with catchment water. That's not a 100% rule. It's kind of a general situation where the more rural areas of the island where prices are better, you're going to be on catchment. But there are areas that are in very nice areas of the island, but they are maybe elevation wise so far above the highway that you can't get the municipal water to it without additional pumping, so it's not available. So you do have areas in Kailua-Kona or in Hilo which just don't have county water availability, and those folks do live on catchment. So if you look at the island in general here, these little blue lines are the areas where there are county water lines. And so that is where a lot of the population is, right? Starting up here in North Kohala and Hawaii, there's a lot of county water. If you get down into, this is the Waikoloa village area here, and then the areas of Waimea, and then the Honoka'a area here. And along the coast, there is a lot of water availability as long as you're not too high in elevation along that eastern coast. And then as you get into Hilo, lots of water availability in Hilo. But if you look at the Puna district, there's very limited areas. There are areas where county water is available. This is Upper Puna, more in the Keao area and Mountain or Curtistown areas. But if you look at all of this area down here, there's a lot of population in this area, like Hawaiian Paradise Park, and those areas where there is no water service, no municipal water service in these areas. So they all live on catchment. If you look in this whole entire region, just small areas here in Pahala and in Naalehu where you have county water, and then there's nothing between the Naalehu area, and this is Ho'okena in South Kona. That's kind of where the county water ends. And if you are familiar with Kona, there's a beach park, Ho'okena Beach Park, that you drive down to. At the top of that road, there is a water station where you can fill water. So you can pull up with your truck and a tank in the back, and you can fill water. And a lot of people do that when it's dry to take home and live off of. So this whole area in South Kona, Hawaiian Ocean View Estates, Miloli'i, all of those areas in South Kona do not have municipal water service. So you want to take that into account. It's not to say that definitely in North Kona, in these areas, if you live in coffee country at maybe 2,000 feet of elevation, there is probably not going to be water because it's so high above the highway, where the upper highway is where the water lines run, that you can't pump the water to it. So all factors that you want to think about in terms of location. Some people absolutely don't want to live on catchment. Some people don't care. The reality is, it's really how you're set up. A lot of folks, I would recommend you have less than maybe a 5,000 to 7,000 gallon tank. It's a very small tank, but I've seen many properties where they have 20,000 gallon tanks. And that is plenty enough water for a family to live on. You may want to calculate out, how much water you expect to use per day, per week, per month. But what you can also figure out is, depending on the area of the island, we have very good information on how much rainfall there is. And so if you know how much rainfall you have, then you can kind of figure out, okay, do I have enough rainfall in order to sustain my family? But worst case scenario, if you run out, there are plenty of companies on the island that will actually haul water. So they'll bring a water truck with 3,000 or 4,000 gallons of water and refill your water tank. And that definitely happens a lot in lower lying areas that have less rainfall that are on catchment. My in-laws, for example, have lived on catchment for the last 40 years. And there are times every few years where it gets pretty dry. They don't have a huge tank that they got to have water hauled to them. But in the grand scheme of things, it's probably less money buying water every once in a while than it is actually paying a water bill every month. So you gotta think about cost-wise. There are costs involved to catchment. It's not totally free because you have to maintain your water system and your pumps and your filters, and once in a while maintain your water tank. So there are costs involved, but you don't have that monthly bill every single month that you have to pay as you would if you were on county water. So if you're trying to think about, okay, how much water do I need? And there's a simple formula. I found the state of Hawaii, the University of Hawaii did a study. And so they kind of broke down how much water you can expect based on the size of your roof. So running through that real quickly, the basic formula is you can expect 0.625 gallons of water for each square inch, or for each inch of rainfall. This is per square foot on your roof, right? So let's run through a quick example of this. So if you have a 36 by 36 house, it's very standard and simple, but basically if you have 1,300 square feet of roof, right, which is a very standard home here in Hawaii, that will net you a total of, so if you have 1,296 square feet of roof and you multiply that by 0.625 gallons of water per inch of rain, you can expect to get 810 gallons per inch of rain. So it's a lot of water, right? So if you get a couple of inches of rain a couple of days a week, I mean, you're talking about a couple thousand gallons of water a week. And in many areas on the island, you get 100+ inches of rain throughout the year. And so you can calculate that out and figure out, it's going to be an abundance of water in most cases, unless it's very abnormally dry or you live at a really low elevation area. So catchment is not something to necessarily be concerned about. You may not have a choice, right? If your budget for a single family home is $500,000, in most cases, you are going to end up in an area that is on catchment water. So you have to accept that if you have budgetary restrictions on where you can live and what you can afford. But in the grand scheme of things, it's a very common thing. There's plenty of companies on the island that service catchment systems, that will build catchment systems, that have resources for filters and all those things. So don't let it be something that scares you off. Just do a little bit of research, figure out if it works for you, and just understand that many people do it. So if you have any questions, you can always put them in the comments below or email me at dylan@buybigisland.com and we will get back to you. But that is how catchment works and your breakdown of municipal versus catchment water here in the Big Island. I'll see you guys next week. Aloha.